And we're back with Season 4, Episode 8, Rarity Takes Manhattan. This is the episode in which they go to Manehattan. It's in the title. And while they're there, Rarity has to undergo a challenge as she is trying to apply for a particular fashion designer show. I don't know why my words are coming so slowly all of a sudden. And in the process... No, I know why. It's because my dad just sent me an email. And in the process... she ends up finding that everything is cruel and horrible. But wait! She likes giving to people and everything works out for the end. And yeah, there's a lot of Spike abuse. I actually was noticing that too. But I'll comment more about that in a second. I want to say really quick. This is probably at least partially because I didn't care for the last episode as much as I did. But I really liked this one. So. First of all, we have a Rarity crush. Is it? I mean, do you guys think it counts? Specifically at the beginning. Oh no, Spiky, I have all those other bags over there. And in the background is like, gotta move the bags. I don't know if that counts. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? You think my yawn attack counts? Oh my gosh. Alright, fine. We'll give it a Rarity crush. Stupid counter. Stop going up. Stop it. I like that too, SA2K. 7 tickets, because Spike was invited too. It's the only night... Well, that's not true. There's 2 nice things done to Spike in the whole episode, and that's one of them. I'll get that in a minute. Anywho. So she's got the tickets for Spike and crew. One of the things I found myself thinking, and this is just the world builder in me, they don't have television. And they don't have video games. And while they do have board games, the board games they showcase are pathetic. I get the really strong impression that most of the entertainment that these people get, you know, other than just hanging out with friends or going out and playing sports or whatever, is from shows. Concerts, plays, musicals, you know, that kind of a thing. This will actually show up in the future, too. There will be several other episodes going forward where, you know, a concert is a really big deal, or a play is a really big deal, or whatever. So, it just makes me wonder how much of a thing this is, especially since everyone, including Rainbow Dash, is really excited about seeing... I forget what they called it. Oh, shoot, what was the version they came... It was The Hills, you know, Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music. I can't remember what they called it, but anyways, it's a Sound of Music riff. Anyways. Where were arcades? Henny of the Hills, that's it, Henny of the Hills. Anyways, just food for thought, because I've noticed that this is a thing. I mean, I guess you could say it's a thing in real life, too. But in real life, theaters and plays and concerts have kind of drifted into the expensive, you only do it once every couple of years territory, unless you happen to be well off. Like, have you looked at concert tickets lately? Holy crap. I mean, okay, now doesn't qualify, so let's real. Have you looked at concert tickets last year? Let's just level that out a little bit. Anyways. Yeah, that's true. Trixie's stage show was a thing, too, and got way more attention than it probably deserved. Now you got me wondering, Sierra Mike. Hang on. The continuity police are on the case. Which episode is this? Oh, that one! Season 5, Episode 18. I don't remember him. I'll have to look it up later. Well, I mean, you say they don't have technology, but they have skyscrapers. The very existence of skyscrapers... That's true, they have Las Pegasus, which is also a really big thing, now that I think about it. I wonder if they do have access to it, but it's not widespread. Because there's the one thing that Sierra Mike just brought up, and there's Las Pegasus. Now you got me thinking. Like, it could help to explain why Las Pegasus is such a big draw, though. You'll also notice that in Las Pegasus, most of the draw is the shows. You know, the performances. Which, again, goes back to what I was just talking about. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, you know, I mean, I had an NES in the 80s, but, you know, I had parents who were well off and wanted to support me. So I was, it was not an uncommon thing that I was the kid in my class who owned an NES, you know. Anyways, moving on. So we get our first look at Manehattan. Skyscrapers, engineering feats. We're walking. Obviously based off of New York, duh. But what I found most interesting is I was paying a lot of attention to the background. First of all, wonderful job on the background shots. You can tell a lot of care and effort was put into most of the stills that were used in this one. Also, I've noticed, first of all, we've kind of talked about this before, but this is a very Earth Pony-centric city. There are unicorns here and there. And actually, if you pay attention to the background, there's the occasional Pegasi flying back through. But this is Earth Pony City Central. It is overwhelmingly Earth Ponies, which again goes back to what we were talking about with Ponyville being the, you know, the nexus city in a way that other cities aren't. Then we have Rainbow Dash making fun. I mean, why would anyone drop into singing at the drop of a hat? That's just ridiculous. Immediately launch into a song. But I found something else funny about that. I actually looked this up. While Rainbow has been involved in some songs, she has only had one song in the whole show up until now. May the Best Pet Win. And even that was a duet between her and Fluttershy. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. It's just interesting to think about. Anyways. So she does the Generosity song. It's actually a decent song. You know, I need to rate it here. Let's put it... Let's put it here. There we go. Yeah, I was going to say, do we ever see Philadelphia? I've never seen it at the point I'm at, but I'm getting off topic. The Generosity song is interesting in its own right, because in the song she seems to acknowledge the risks involved. I've actually talked about this concept several times before, the cost of kindness. For those of you who haven't heard me talk about it in brief, if you are kind to a stranger, if you reach out a hand to them, you have to accept the fact that that might go badly, that they might take advantage of you or they might hurt you. That is the cost of kindness. The consequence thereof is something you have to be willing to take, either because you can take it because you have the strength or the power or the money or whatever, or because it's something you're willing to accept, right? And that's an extremely important thing, in my opinion, especially in real life. And I mention this because Rarity does actually mention that in the song, but only briefly. And that is one of the major themes of this episode, which I'll get to more in a minute when it actually comes up. But it was a decent song. And of course, Spike, who is carrying all their stuff, finally gets a carrot dog. You know, she finally gives him something. And then the bird takes it. Poor Spike. I gotta be honest, the Spike abuse has gotten to the point where it's starting to grate on me, in general. Anyone remember Season 1 and 2 of Voyager? Star Trek Voyager? Hey, look, guys, Neelix is a bad cook. Isn't that funny? It's something I don't find funny to begin with, and then they just keep hammering the point in. And so it's the exact same mentality. This is the Spike being abused or whatever thing has just started getting less and less funny the further we go into the show. For me. I sure hope so, SA2K, because I'm already sick of it. Anyways, so it is nice to see that her philosophy, Rarity's philosophy in a nutshell, is shown in the episode. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Also, apparently mending is a spell within My Little Pony, which makes sense in its own right, especially that Rarity would be capable of doing it, considering her job. I wonder how many times she has mended something with regards to, you know, sewing a dress or whatever. But, so why do you think they were late? Now you probably think, what? Well, after they finish the song, it's like, hey, she's got 10... It's mending, SA2K. It's mending. It's literally, the name of the spell is called Mending in Dungeons & Dragons. It's like healing, but for for non-living objects. Like, oh, I broke the wheel. I cast Mending on it. Anyways, it's usually a bard song, appropriately enough. Or a bard spell, excuse me, not a song. God, I can't think of anything today. Look, I woke up really early and Persona 5 killed me. Like, what do you want from me? So, also suicide. Well, so why do you think they were late? Because, they finished the song and they've only got 10 minutes to get there. It's entirely possible they were just running late. It's also entirely possible that's just there for, literary purposes to have a ticking clock, literally, in this case. But I'm with SA2K. I like the idea that they were late because they were singing. Because they were like, yeah, woo, singing. And I have to admit, ignoring the fact that that amuses me, the other reason I think that's true is because later on, there's actually going to be an episode, much later, I forget the actual episode, where they will be late because they're singing. Anyways. So, they're late, they need to get a cab, Mad Men references all over the place. Seriously, you could name the character from Mad Men across all the ponies. But the taxi driver comes back and says, I got you back. And then the bellhop says, no worry, I got you back. Now that's interesting, and I do want that to be mentioned there because of something I'll talk about later, and I swear I'll actually talk about it this time. Speaking of which, I'm just going to put this here to remind me. Here we go. Nice and obvious reminder. Put it here, and I'll have to hold it, and that'll remind me. So, the taxi driver helps them, and the bellhop helps them. And then we say Suri Polymer, or however they pronounced it. Now, I was like, oh, I've got to know the name, who's voicing her. It's Tabitha St. Germain. Damn it, Miss Germain. Why are you so amazing at your job? Ugh. So yeah, she voices the villain of this episode. And does a really good job of it. People do remember good tippers. That's 100% true. Mom taught me a trick when I was very young. Remember, a lot of my family has lived in and around Vegas since I was born. So, I've been going to Vegas regularly since I was very, very young to visit my grandparents. And my great-grandparents and my great-great-grandparents. And one of the things I learned at an extremely young age is that if you want to spend some time, at a casino or at a place, basically where you're going to have regular people coming by to wait on you, tip them. They'll remember you. And they'll come back to see what you want. And they will be willing to do more to get you what you want. Now, this is a little more applicable to my mother than me because I don't drink and I don't gamble. But she gets really good service whenever she goes out gambling. Because they remember her. And she's a good tipper. That's true in a lot of things, though. In restaurants, in delivery services, too. There was a woman who worked at a Domino's, this is a while ago, and she remembered me by face because I'm a good tipper. I mean, you could say maybe I'm a nice person and I'd make it a point to chat with her every time she delivered food. But I was a good tipper, and I'm pretty sure that's the part she remembered. And she was always, quick and efficient. I'd usually get a little bit of extra, you get it. That's important, though. That's an important thing because of something I'll be getting to in a minute. First, I want to talk about Rarity offering her fabric to Suri, and can I just say that fabric looks astonishingly good? In fact, it looks magically enchanted. And I have to admit, one of those things I've always loved is the idea of mundane magic. We've talked about this many times before, but like clothes that are magically enchanted, or food that's magically enchanted, or drinks, Those kind of little things, those little world-building details, I eat that stuff up. And so seeing this, seeing the literal purple, magical, shimmering, outfits, they just looked really cool. And I like the extra addition to detail on that. Now, I want to mention something here. So at this point, I go through and I take my notes pretty much the same as I always do. But I have chat up while I'm doing it, because I leave the program up because I'm going to hit go as soon as I finish the episode, right? So I type into the chat program, aw, poor Coco Pamel, because, Suri is being horribly abusive to her, at least by MLP standards. As I typed that, SA2K in chat said, poor Coco. Like, within 5 seconds of me typing that. That sounds really cool, Loner. Why should you get the choice to pay for the service? That's a good question, Lord Harriman. I don't know about over there in Europe, but over here, the people doing that do not get paid well. They do not get paid a living wage. They get paid jack. So they basically can't survive on just their wages. They literally require tipping in order to live. Now, I could talk about the philosophy of tipping and all that sort of thing, but that's the baseline. In fact, some serving jobs actually kind of work around the minimum wage laws because of the nature of the work, because there's ways to go around that. Yeah, it's absolutely stupid, in my opinion. I have multiple family members who have worked in waiting. I never have myself, but I have plenty of secondhand experience with that. And yeah, I tip well. Although, the other reason, I'll go ahead and say this, the other reason I like tipping, and it does depend on the person, but I'm a pretty good reader of people, so the other reason I like tipping is because it's a way to give to people without them getting weird about it. If I walked up to you on the street, Lord Harriman, and said, here's $5, you'd get weird. Well, okay, maybe you wouldn't, but 99% of people would get weird about that. But if you bring me something and I tip you more than, I should or more than is suggested, then you're just going to be like, oh, cool. So, moving on. So, cost of kindness. Let's get back into that. You have to be willing to accept the hurt when you reach that handout. And this is exactly what happens with Suri. Suri steals her designs and uses them for herself and is basically ruining Rarity's chance of winning this competition. This is probably one of the best showcasings MLP has ever shown of that concept I've talked about. And you'll notice Rarity wasn't prepared to accept that cost, except at the same time she kind of was. This episode manages a surprising nuance to it, which I think I've missed before this time around. See, I had the note in my notes here. If your philosophy can't withstand the first time it's wrong, it's not really your philosophy. But that's not what Rarity goes through. What Rarity goes through is a bad day. We've all had those, right? You ever have a day where things are just, or something just pushes you in just the wrong way, and you're not really yourself? You're just agitated. You snap at things that you don't really mean. And you yell at something, and you're not, whatever's coming out of your mouth, it's not what you actually feel. It's not what you actually think. And that's exactly what Rarity goes through here. She has had a particularly bad day, in a way that is substantially hurting her because her philosophy was thrown against her, used as a weapon to hurt her. In addition to that, it is used as a specific way to hurt her chances of advancing her career. Remember, Rarity's ambitious. It's not brought up all that often, but she is absolutely ambitious. She wants to climb up the fashion world, and she will continue to do so throughout the course of this show. The fact that she is at a designer contest in Manehattan now shows how far she's come from running a little boutique in Ponyville. So this is a very painful hurt, and she lashes out at her friends over it. Now that did piss me off, and I'm not going to lie about it. But the thing is, what she's doing is lashing out. She's not actually ungrateful. Not really. And the episode makes it very clear that as soon as she, as SA2K points out, she has exploded, collected, and pushed forward, her first reaction is, oh crap, what have I done? And she abandons the show to go after her friends, because that's where her priorities actually lie. And when she thinks she has failed her friends, that's when she actually is hurt. Not because of the show, but because of the fact that she thinks she's pissed off her friends, that she's hurt her friends. And then, this is my favorite part. There's actually 3 Aesops in this episode, but the one I love most is Twilight tells her, we didn't exactly see you at your best, but we know you. we're not going to stop being friends over one incident. And ain't that a lesson? Now, obviously, the severity of the incident is something that needs to be kept into account. You know, if there's a difference between a friend yelling at you and a friend chopping off your hand. But the point is, that is how friendship works, isn't it? You don't stop being friends because you have an argument. Or because, you know, they yelled at you for something. Or because you had a bad day or whatever, right? One incident like that is just something they can stumble over on the path of being friends. And if you've been paying attention during these Streaminations, I have mentioned how the main six weren't friends up until at least Season 2. And even then, we're still developing friendship. I think this is the first time I could actually say that there's a legitimate friendship there. Because of this, and because of the way this is presented and showcased. My opinion. Because that's what it takes a real friend to be able to take the kind of abuse that Rarity did there and keep being friends with her. You'll notice that after Rarity has her big melodrama explosion earlier in the episode, they just kind of all go back to working on the clothes for her. Because they do actually care about her. Because they are actually her friends. Just, I like that. I like that a fairly large amount, actually. So, sorry, rewinding. Rewinding just a second here. I bet the designers had a lot of fun with this episode. Yeah, they felt bad for oversleeping. That's also true. Since, you know, they had worked themselves all night helping her out. Anyways, so I feel like the designers, the actual artists and drawers, had some fun with this one. Obviously, they're selling merch. You know, that's the point of the show. But I feel like they did a really good job, not only with the magically enchanted outfits, but with the hotel-themed ones. There's a lot of good counterbalance with regards to shapes and presentation. But my favorite part was the color usage, which almost all the colors there seemed to, maybe this is just me, seemed to showcase some of the colors of the main six, the friends. This is then immediately followed by a little rainbow streak. So, then the episode has a final little tidbit, and this is another Aesop, which I really like, because I've already told it to you, and I believe it in real life. Every pony, every person that Rarity was kind to, every single one of them reciprocates that kindness in some manner or another. Except Suri. And that's what I like about it. Coco decides to tell her the truth, specifically because she sees what a decent, kind pony is like and doesn't want to be like Suri. Doesn't want to be that kind of cold and unpleasant. And Coco's awesome, so that's helpful too. So she comes forward, tells them the truth, gets a new job as a consequence. And it's worth noting, this isn't just Rarity tossing off her job onto, you know, someone unqualified. Coco has already demonstrated that she is a very skilled fashion designer. So Coco is a good piece for the good position. So things do fit out rather nicely. Some people would refer to this as karma. But whether you believe in karma or not, this kind of goes back to the tipping thing we were talking about earlier. People pay attention when you're a good tipper. And this is kind of the showcasing of that. It's just in terms of not just money, but in simple acts of kindness. Yeah, paying it forward, basically. The idea of paying it forward. But the thing I love most about it is the episode doesn't say everyone you help out, everyone you are kind to is going to pay it forward. Some people are not going to do that, like Suri. And that is a good lesson, in my opinion. Because sometimes people are going to pay it forward, and it's going to be awesome. And sometimes they won't, and it's going to suck. And that's life. But Rarity decides to continue to pay it forward because that's legitimately what she believes, her actual philosophy, as I mentioned earlier. And then we see the rainbow shing again on the rainbow thread. It's not actually a real rainbow, though. You notice that? That's what actually caught my attention about it, other than the shing. Because what it is it's the colors of the main six. Anywho, good episode. I really like this one. It's also the first episode to continue that. It's the first time we've seen the rainbow shimmer up until now, so that's neat. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to read yesterday's or earlier's episode entry from the Applejack thing. So this is Applejack. Sweet Apple Eggers almost had its lifeblood of apple juice sucked right out thanks to this pony being short-sighted with a short-term solution. No, that wasn't what the problem was. Why, when vampire bats threatened our orchard, this pony couldn't see the forest through the trees. Also not the problem. My good friend Fluttershy thought of the needs of the critters, saying we should give them a piece of our land, and that, in fact, the bats would make our future crops even better. Leave it to this pony to be stubborn as a mule. This is already pissing me off. I didn't want those varmints anywhere near our apples or our land, so we made Fluttershy go against her good nature, put the stare on them creatures so they could cast a spell on them, smoking with the vampire ways while they were... Well, we were the ones that ended up getting bit, because there was a spell that turned our sweet friend into the biggest vampire bat of them all. It just goes to show you should never let any pony pressure you into doing something you don't think is right. That's a good lesson. And when one of your closest friends tells you no, you better pony up and accept it, because nothing's worth jeopardizing a friendship. Double checking something really quick. Yep, okay. So, the entry for this episode, sorry for screwing up again, from Rarity. Manehattan was simply grand. It was in this magnificent metropolis that I learned that while there are ponies who will take advantage of your generosity, you should never ever let that cause you to abandon your generous spirit. Nothing feels worse than taking advantage of the giving nature of your friends. This is really hard to read. She has terrible handwriting. After all, it is my friends who pulled me through this debacle. It is my friends who generously gave up their time and all their plans and helped me receive the accolades of all the fashion industry. I was swept up in the cold, callous world of Manehattan, thinking it was all that mattered, but when my friends weren't there to share in my success, I realized this success was the last thing that mattered. Realizing that I had treated them so horribly, it wasn't just worth it. I never want to be that kind of pony. Why, it may be every pony for herself in the big city, but this small-town filly is just fine being a generous pony she's always been, although a bit wiser and more cautious than before. Yeah, that's a good lesson right there. And for that reason... this episode gets -15 to story. Where's my spreadsheet? There it is. Found it. I don't think that qualifies as purple territory. It really takes a lot to get up to purple. But I am going to give this a red. This is a good episode, and I really like it. Yeah, generous but smart. I'm right. Yeah, funnily enough, Sierra Mike, I agree with your earlier estimate. Someone like Rarity will be a very slow climb up the ladder. She'll make it, though. Up to a certain point. In real life, what would happen is she would reach a certain point, and then there would be a wall. She could not go any higher. And frankly, in real life, she probably would have already reached that wall. But fortunately, Equestria is better than real life. So she'll get a little bit higher before she hits that wall. Either way, I hope you've enjoyed. I'm going to go ahead and chomp off the local recording.